The outcast's discovery smoke drifted through the valley as Rowan Thorne surveyed the frontier settlement of New Haven from his perch atop a wind-carved boulder. His weather-beaten face, marked by a jagged scar running from temple to jaw, remained expressionless as he observed the bustling activity below. 5 years had passed since his dishonorable discharge from the Terran Defense Force. 5 years of exile, of scraping by as a wilderness guide and occasional bounty hunter in this forgotten corner of human space. The settlement's perimeter alarms flashed red, signaling another skirmish with Valkyrie scouts. The alien race had emerged from deep space 8 years ago, their sleek obsidian ships cutting through Terran defense networks like knives through silk. What began as territorial disputes had escalated into an interstellar conflict that threatened humanity's fragile colonial network. Rowan's hand unconsciously moved to the identification tag still hanging around his neck, a reminder of the life he'd lost after the disastrous reconnaissance mission on Proxima 4. No one had believed his report of a hidden Valkyrie superweapon. General Stormwind had publicly denounced him as a coward fabricating stories to explain his team's retreat. The military tribunal had been merciless, stripping him of rank and honor in equal measure. They never listen until it's too late, he muttered, rising to his feet and adjusting the worn pulse rifle slung across his back. The sky darkened unexpectedly, a shadow passing overhead that was too substantial to be clouds. Rowan looked up just in time to see a vessel, neither human nor Valkyrie in design, plummeting through the atmosphere. The ship's hull glowed cherry red with friction as it disappeared behind the jagged peaks of the Razorback Mountains to the north. Curiosity overrode caution. Those mountains lay in the designated no-man's land between human and Valkyrie territory, a demilitarized zone established by the fragile ceasefire. No patrols ventured there, no sensors monitored the area. The perfect place to disappear, or to find something no one else would. 3 days of hard hiking brought Rowan to a smoking crater carved into the mountainside. The vessel, if it could be called that, resembled no craft he'd ever encountered. Its hull was a crystalline material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, with no visible seams or entry points. The crash had shattered much of the structure, scattering iridescent fragments across the impact zone. "What the hell are you?" Rowan whispered, approaching cautiously. As if responding to his presence, a section of the hull rippled and dissolved, revealing a chamber within. Rowan's training screamed caution, but something deeper pulled him forward, an inexplicable certainty that this moment had been waiting for him. Inside, suspended in a column of blue light, floated a sword. Not the practical energy blades favored by Terran military or the sonic cutters used by Valkyrie warriors, but an actual metal sword with a physical blade. Its design was both ancient and impossibly advanced, the metal shifting colors, like oil on water. Runes etched along the length, pulsed with subtle energy. The hilt was wrapped in material that looked like leather but felt warm to the touch, almost alive. Without fully understanding why, Rowan reached out and grasped the weapon. The world around him seemed to hold its breath. Then pain, searing, white-hot, coursed through his arm as the runes flared blindingly bright. Images flooded his mind, worlds he'd never seen, battles fought across the stars, civilizations rising and falling across millennia. And through it all the sword, always the sword passing from hand to hand, carrying its legacy through the ages. When Rowan's vision cleared, he found himself on his knees, the sword clutched tightly in his grip. The ship was gone, not destroyed but simply absent, as if it had never existed. Only the crater remained as evidence of its passage. The blade hummed softly, the runes now a gentle blue that pulsed in rhythm with Rowan's heartbeat. He felt different, stronger, more aware. The chronic pain in his old battle wounds had vanished. When he stood, his movements felt fluid, precise, as if his body had been recalibrated to peak efficiency. "What are you?" he asked the sword. The weapon didn't answer, at least not in words, but Rowan sensed something, a purpose, a connection, a destiny that had finally found him. 2 weeks later, Rowan stood in the operations center of Fort Resilience, the main Terran military outpost on Hadrian's world. His appearance had caused a stir. The disgraced former scout, now demanding an audience with the command staff. Only his former squad mate, Lieutenant Dashiell Wolf, had vouched for him, allowing him past the security checkpoints. "They won't believe you," Dash warned, escorting Rowan down the sterile corridor. "Hell, I barely believe you myself. A magic sword from space? You sound deranged." "I don't need them to believe me," Rowan replied. "I just need them to listen." The command staff was predictably dismissive. Colonel Jansen, a career officer with more political ambition than combat experience, barely looked up from his holographic displays. "Thorn, your service record speaks for itself. You're here as a courtesy. To Lieutenant Wolf, nothing more. We have real intelligence to process about real threats." "The Valkyrie are preparing a major offensive," Rowan stated flatly. "They've moved 3 battle groups into position behind the Scylla Nebula. They'll strike within the week." This got Jansen's attention. "And you know this?" "How exactly?" Rowan placed his hand on the sword's hilt, now strapped to his back. "The same way I know that your current defensive grid has a vulnerability in the southern quadrant. The same way I know that General Stormwind has ordered your garrison to stand, down if attacked, to preserve forces for a counteroffensive that will never come." The room fell silent. That last bit was classified information, known only to the highest levels of command. "Arrest him," Jansen ordered, his face flushing red. "Espionage, sedition." "Colonel, you need to listen," Rowan interrupted, an unfamiliar authority in his voice. "This weapon isn't just a weapon. It's a repository of knowledge spanning thousands of years. It's shown me things, truths about the Valkyrie, about this war, about threats beyond our understanding." "Remove him," Jansen snapped, and security personnel moved forward. Dash stepped between them and his former comrade. "Sir, with respect, shouldn't we at least examine his claims? If there's even a chance, stand down, Lieutenant, or join him." "In the brig." Rowan placed a restraining hand on Dash's shoulder. "It's all right. They're not ready." His eyes met Jansen's. "But they will be. When the Valkyrie come, remember that I tried to warn you." As they escorted him from the facility, Rowan felt no anger, only a strange certainty. The sword at his back hummed softly, a constant reminder that his path now lay elsewhere. That certainty was tested 3 days later when a band of raiders ambushed Rowan as he made camp in the foothills west of New Haven. 8 figures emerged. From the darkness, weapons trained on him. Human scavengers taking advantage of the war's chaos to prey on travelers. "That's quite a fancy blade you've got there," their leader said, a hulking man with cybernetic enhancements visible along his jaw. "Hand it over, and we might let you walk away with just a beating." Rowan stood slowly, making no move toward the sword. "This isn't something you want to steal, trust me on that." The leader laughed. "Not giving you options here, friend." When the first raider lunged, time seemed to slow. Rowan's hand found the sword's hilt with impossible precision. The blade cleared its sheath with a sound like distant thunder, blue light blazing from its runes. What followed wasn't combat. It was transformation. Rowan moved with inhuman speed and grace, each strike precise and devastating. The sword seemed to guide his movements, anticipating attacks before they came. When one raider fired a pulse weapon, the blade intercepted the energy bolt, absorbing it and redirecting the power through the runes. In moments, it was over. 7 raiders lay unconscious around him. The leader remained on his knees, staring up at Rowan with naked fear. What are you?" he stammered. Rowan looked down at the sword, its runes now pulsing with the same rhythm as his heartbeat. For the first time since finding it, he felt the whisper of words forming in his mind. Not his thoughts, but something older, vaster. "I am the Harbinger," he replied, the words feeling both foreign and deeply true. "And a storm is coming that will reshape the stars themselves." Behind him, the night sky lit up with the flash of distant explosions. The Valkyrie attack had begun, exactly as the sword had shown him, exactly as no one had believed. Rise of the Chosen One dawn broke over the burning settlement of New Haven, smoke columns rising like dark pillars against the crimson sky. Rowan observed the destruction from the same ridge where he had stood days earlier, though everything had changed. The Valkyrie attack had been swift and devastating, precision strikes targeting communications arrays, defense grids, and command centers across 3 colonial worlds simultaneously. Fort Resilience had fallen within hours, its vaunted defenses crumbling against weapons of impossible power. The disbelief in Colonel Jansen's final transmission still echoed in Rowan's mind. They knew exactly where to hit us, exactly when. God help us all. The sword at Rowan's back pulsed with an urgent rhythm, images flooding his consciousness. Ancient civilizations falling to the same precision attacks. Worlds burning. And behind it all something darker. An intelligence that used the Valkyrie as its instruments, just as it had used countless other species throughout time. I need someone who will listen, Rowan muttered, studying the map projected from his wrist device. The nearest remaining human outpost lay 3 weeks' journey through contested territory. He had little choice but to try. 4 days into his journey, Rowan sensed he was being followed. His tracker instincts, already formidable before the sword enhanced them, detected subtle disturbances in the forest undergrowth, movements too deliberate for wildlife, too precise for ordinary humans. On the 5th night, he decided to confront his pursuer. He made camp as usual but remained alert, the sword across his lap, its runes dimmed to avoid detection. When the subtle rustle of movement approached his perimeter, Rowan spoke without turning. You've been following me since the river crossing. Either attack or introduce yourself. A soft, musical laugh answered him, distinctly non-human. Your awareness has improved, Terran. The legend spoke truly of the blade's gifts. From the shadows emerged a figure that caused Rowan's hand to tighten on the sword's hilt. Standing before him was unmistakably a Valkyrie female, though unlike any he had encountered in battle. Where most of her kind possessed metallic blue skin, hers was pale silver, marked with intricate spiraling patterns. Her eyes, 4 iridescent orbs arranged in a diamond pattern, studied him with unsettling intensity. I am Vexara, she said, keeping a respectful distance. Once High Seer of the Valkyrie Conclave, now exile and truth-bearer. She gestured to the weapon in Rowan's lap. And you carry the Keldranath, what your kind might call the star-forged blade. Rowan stood, positioning himself for a potential attack. You know this weapon? Vexara's upper eyes blinked in what might have been amusement. My lineage has safeguarded its prophecies for 17 generations. The blade chooses its bearer when darkness threatens to consume all life. It has chosen you, Terran. My name is Rowan Thorn. Names are significant, Vexara acknowledged with a slight bow. Rowan Thorn, the Keldranath has awakened for the first time in 3 millennia. This confirms what I feared. The Harbinger cycle begins anew. Despite his ingrained suspicion of all Valkyrie, something in her manner struck Rowan as genuine. The sword, too, remained calm in her presence, its usual warning pulse silent. Why should I trust you? Rowan asked directly. Because, like you, I tried to warn my people and was cast out for speaking truth. She pulled back her cloak, revealing a branded mark on her shoulder, a symbol that matched one of the runes on the sword's blade. Because I am sworn to serve. The blade's purpose, as are you, whether you understand it yet or not. By firelight, Vexara revealed an ancient history unknown to both human and Valkyrie military intelligence. The current conflict, she explained, was merely the latest iteration of a cycle that had repeated countless times across the galaxy. A parasitic intelligence, the Void Archon, that consumed civilizations by manipulating them into war, feeding on the energy released by mass destruction. The Valkyrie leadership is already compromised, she explained, tracing symbols in the dirt that made the sword's runes pulse in recognition. What remains of your human command structure will soon follow. The Archon corrupts those in power, first turning allies against each other until nothing remains but ash and memory. And this sword is supposed to stop that? Rowan asked, his voice heavy with skepticism despite everything he had witnessed. Not alone. The blade is a key. It unlocks forgotten defenses created by those who survived the last cycle. But it requires its chosen wielder to awaken its full potential. Her four eyes fixed on him with discomforting intensity. You must bring the blade to the celestial forge on Abelos Prime, which happens to be behind Valkyrie lines, Rowan noted, dryly. Behind lines drawn by corrupted leaders, Vexara corrected. Many among both our peoples would rally to the blade if they knew its significance. The sword does not recognize our arbitrary divisions, only the division between light and void. The journey to the nearest jump gate took 2 grueling weeks. Along the way, they encountered other refugees, humans fleeing destroyed settlements, rogue Valkyrie separatists who recognized Vexara's exile brand. Slowly, improbably, a company formed around Rowan and the sword, a ragtag assortment of species that would once have killed each other on sight, now united by desperate circumstance. Among them was Dash, Rowan's former squadmate, who had escaped the fall of Fort Resilience with a handful of soldiers. His initial skepticism faded when he witnessed Rowan single-handedly repel a corrupted Valkyrie strike team, the sword blazing with blue fire as it cleaved through seemingly impenetrable armor. "I still think you're crazy," Dash told him afterward, "but maybe that's exactly what we need right now." Their growing band of survivors managed to secure transport off-world, commandeering an abandoned freight hauler. As they approached the Carillon space station, their last hope for a jump to the Abelos sector, Rowan's past caught up with him in the form of General Marcus Stormwind's flagship, the Indomitable. The massive warship intercepted their freighter, its communication array broadcasting on all frequencies. "Attention, unidentified vessel. This is General Stormwind of the Terran Defense Force. You are harboring known fugitives and alien combatants. Surrender immediately." The holographic projection of Stormwind appeared in their command center, the same stern face that had condemned Rowan years ago. Though the general appeared unchanged physically, Rowan immediately sensed the difference. The sword vibrated against his back, warning of corruption. "Thorn," Stormwind's voice carried false cordiality. "I admit, I'm impressed by your survival, even more by the interesting company you keep." His eyes lingered on Vexara with calculating interest. "My intelligence officers tell me you've acquired an artifact of significant power. The Terran Defense Force would very much like to examine it." "It's not a weapon for your arsenal, General," Rowan replied evenly. "And you're not who you once were." Something flickered behind Stormwind's eyes, a darkness that didn't belong. "Always the insubordinate one. I gave you a chance for redemption and you respond with more delusions." The general's expression hardened. "You have 10 minutes to surrender before we open fire." As the transmission ended, Dash turned to Rowan. "We're outgunned 100 to 1. That ship can vaporize us with a sneeze." "He wants the sword intact," Rowan said thoughtfully. "That gives us leverage." Vexara stepped forward. "There is another option. The Keldranath has awakened, but not fully. It awaits your complete acceptance of the burden it offers." "What does that mean exactly?" Rowan asked. "It means surrendering your old identity entirely," she replied solemnly. "Becoming one with the blade's purpose. Few wielders survive the transformation, but those who do gain power beyond mortal understanding." Rowan stared at the sword in his hands. The runes pulsed, sending images directly into his mind. The countless bearers who had come before him, their sacrifices, their triumphs, their ultimate fates. Many had been consumed by the power they sought to control. Others had transcended, becoming something greater than human or Valkyrie or any single species. "We have 7 minutes," Dash interrupted. "Whatever you're going to do, decide quickly." "Evacuate everyone to the escape pods," Rowan ordered. "Set course for the Indomitable." "You're going to ram it?" Dash asked incredulously. "I'm going to confront it," Rowan corrected. "The sword has been leading me to this moment since I found it. Time to trust it completely." As the freighter accelerated toward the massive warship, Rowan stood alone in the command center. He drew the sword, its blade blazing brighter than ever before. The runes spiraled with energy that flowed up his arm, spreading throughout his body. "I accept what you offer," he told the blade. "Whatever the cost." The transformation began immediately, agonizing yet exhilarating. His consciousness expanded, connecting with every bearer who had come before. Knowledge poured into him, combat techniques from 1,000 worlds, wisdom from extinct civilizations, the true nature of the Void Archon and how to combat its influence. When the Indomitable's tractor beam locked onto the freighter, pulling it toward the docking bay, Rowan was no longer merely human. The sword had become an extension of himself, its energy flowing through him like blood. Stormwind waited in the docking bay with a full complement of elite guards, their weapons trained on the freighter's airlock. When it opened to reveal Rowan, standing alone, the general's confident smile faltered. "Where is the sword, Thorn?" he demanded. Rowan stepped forward, his eyes now glowing with the same blue light as the sword's runes. "Right where it belongs." With a thought, the sword materialized, in his hand from pure energy. The guards opened fire immediately, but the energy bolts dissipated harmlessly against an invisible barrier surrounding Rowan. "You've been corrupted, General," Rowan stated, his voice resonating with power that shook the very metal of the docking bay. "The Void Archon has taken root in your mind, using you to further its cycle of destruction." Stormwind's face contorted with rage. "Kill him!" he screamed at his guards. "Kill him now!" What followed wasn't combat, but revelation. The sword cut, not through flesh but through the veil of corruption itself. With each strike, Rowan severed the Archon's influence from those it had infected. Guards collapsed, awakening to their true selves. The ship's systems, subtly corrupted by the entity's influence, reset to normal operation. Stormwind himself fought the hardest, drawing a ceremonial blade that pulsed with sickly green energy, corrupted artifact that served as the Archon's anchor. When the two weapons met, reality itself seemed to warp around them. "You cannot stop what comes, Harbinger," the thing wearing Stormwind's face hissed in a voice that echoed from multiple throats. "I am eternal. I am inevitable." "Nothing is inevitable," Rowan replied, channeling the sword's full power. "That's what you've never understood." The Keldranath blazed like a newborn star as Rowan thrust it forward, piercing not Stormwind's physical heart, but the shadowy parasite that had wrapped itself around the general's soul. The corrupted artifact shattered in Stormwind's hand as the Archon's presence was severed from him. The general collapsed, gasping as if breathing for the first time in years. Around the docking bay, officers and soldiers stared in confusion, as if awakening from a long dream. What happened to me?" Stormwind asked, his voice his own again. Rowan knelt beside him, the sword returning to its physical form. "You were used, General. We all were. But now you have a choice about what comes next." Later, as the Indomitable changed course for Abelos Prime with a new mission and unified purpose, Vexara found Rowan standing alone in the observation deck, gazing at the stars. "The transformation," she said, "it was successful." "More than you know," Rowan replied quietly. "I understand now why no one believed me before. Some truths can only be shown, not told." He turned to her, the sword's runes now permanently etched into his skin in glowing blue patterns. "The Archon on this ship was just an extension, a tendril of something far greater. The real battle is yet to come, and you will face it as the Harbinger," Vexara acknowledged, "as was prophesied." Rowan's gaze returned to the stars, to distant worlds where others like Stormwind had fallen under the Archon's sway, to civilizations unknowingly marching toward their own destruction, to the celestial forge that awaited him, where the sword's power would reach its full potential. "They'll believe now," he said simply. "The sword will make sure of it."